All right. Good morning, ladies.
Good morning.
Today I have Ms. Rodriguez, who's representing the English Language Arts Department, Ms. Tenori, who's representing the Social Studies Department. We're hoping that one of the representatives for the Science Department comes in as well, but we only have 15 teachers, so it's very difficult for some of them to attend today. What I'm going to be covering today is our START EOC results, which we got a little over a week ago, and the action plans that the different departments came up with. I'm beginning with the student population because the population that we serve is very different than the student population at the comprehensive high schools, and I think it affects the type of interventions and action plans that we develop based on our student population. As you all know, these are the recent graduates, and they look beautiful. And the reason I added this is because despite our student population, despite the challenges that our students face, we have a lot of smart kids, and they're able to do the things here that they weren't able to do at the comprehensive high schools, and they're able to excel. So according to the 2016-2017 Texas Academic Performance Report, 100% of our students are economically disadvantaged, and 100% of our students are also labeled at risk, while 58% are English language learners. So as you all know, we have our work cut out for us, but it's doable. So this is focusing on what we're gonna do about the retesters and how well we did on the ELC exams. The goal, the purpose of this observation is to analyze STAR, algebra, English Language Arts 1 and 2, biology, and U.S. history data, and present action plans by department. The Algebra 1 STAR EOC data, which is a 9th grade exam. Overall, the department performed at 66%. If you look at the bottom right-hand corner, 66% were at approaches, which is passing. 15% were at the meets, and at the masters, which used to be commended, 5%. 63 students, approaches, 14 meets, and 5 masters. That was from the summer, fall, and spring combined. Just the spring data, if you look at the bottom left-hand corner, approaches were at 57%, meets were at 21%, and masters were at 9%, which was a total of 27 students at approaches, 10% at meets, and 4% at masters. There's also data from our sister school, which is CCTA. If you look at the tax information, which is the third graph on the left, some of those students who are, some of them up to 26 years old, are still taking the tax. 94% met the, the passing standard. Approaches were at 65%, meets were at 29%, and masters were at 6%, which is those that met tax were 16 students, 11 were at approaches, 5 were at meets, and 1 were at masters. I'm not going to review the snapshot and non-snapshot. I just went over the overall performance, whether they were snapshot or not. Now, the algebra department, I did meet with the department head, and the way they are creating their target list, obviously it's by those that did not meet the required standard to pass the algebra exam, but they as most of us do here, they categorize them by tiers based on attendance. Attendance is the biggest issue facing our campus. We see some of our students maybe once a week, some maybe once every 2 weeks, some we don't see the entire month. So attendance is of the utmost importance when it comes to our intervention plans. Here, the retesters, algebra has 13 retesters, and if you look at the right-hand column, you see the attendance tiers. One being the least, those students that don't miss as much, and the third tier being those students who are excessively absent. Some of those students we haven't seen the entire grading period. So as you can see, most of the students that need to retest are at the third attendance tier, so the interventions have to reflect that obstacle or that challenge or whatever it is. Any questions, ladies?
The NT means not taken, right?
That they did not take it. The NT means not taken, and they should have tested, but they were absent, and which again reflects the attendance tier 3 that they're at.
Yeah, because if you look at number 8, Chris Chizala, he didn't take it in fall or spring, but he's a tier 3, so he's one that we haven't seen for
Right,
months.
so we're gonna have to obviously do something to bring these kids in. I think one of the, I guess, I don't know if I should say sad things, is that some of those students on that list, we all know are highly intelligent kids who should be able to pass those exams. If you look at 11, who is Alejandro Vasquez, he didn't take it in the fall. I mean, he took it in the fall. He didn't meet the standard. I want to say, if I remember correctly, in December, he came in really late for the exam, and as some of our students do, I think he just bubbled in whatever it was, because Alex is very, very, very intelligent. He was close either way. And then in the spring, he didn't come to test.
So
And
you have sorry,
no, go ahead.
the scale score and then the raw score there, right? So he had 19 questions.
Right.
So
and-
he is the highest one from their target list for fall.
Right. Well, him and Ariana Contreras? No?
18.
She's close, she's at 18. Right. I believe for the math, they need, what, 22 questions to
Oh, wow.
pass? Yeah, it's a very low number, to be honest. I think they need, you know what, it might be even past 21, because with the passing standard is 3,500 for them as well. So I mean, Alex missed it by 1 or 2 questions, and Ariana, who never comes, also missed it only. So even Lorisha, who again is also never here, was at 16 questions. So these kids are close. They're close. And then Ariana, if you see Ariana at number 3, she actually regressed from the fall to the spring. And if you recall, at the beginning of the year, she was coming, maybe not consistently, but a lot more than she did in the spring semester. So again, attendance, I think, is the major issue for some of these students.
I feel also, if they're here, let them focus on the exam that they're strongest in. Because I know Ariana, when she has her schedule, she gets a little bit distracted. So if she's gonna focus like 2 hours, I'd rather her focus on the exam that she's actually gonna test on.
Right, I mean, I agree, and I think that's something that we have to collaborate with the other, with you know, between departments, as far as where are they closer, what can they focus on, because some of these kids are missing 4 exams, 3 exams, and they're really not close at all as far as passing some of them, but they might be close in mathematics. Let me open the door for Mrs. Velasquez really quickly. Good morning, ma'am. Come in.
Just a reminder.
Yes, ma'am.
That about the meeting. Hi, good morning. Just a friendly reminder regarding 10 o'clock meeting.
What are we doing at 10 o'clock, ma'am?
I'm on the slide.
Here at the library?
Yeah, first is first she said the data room, but then she texted me back that it's gonna be changed to the library.
And who's this? Oh, just department heads. Oh, what we're gonna do, ma'am, if I'm not mistaken, is, look at accountability. I
I
think,
went online and we met accountability.
right, yes.
We met
Yeah,
accountability.
so I think it's gonna be, I think we're gonna discuss the different, they're no longer, domains, yeah. They used to be what, ma'am?
And on the online, the one we didn't meet, the index we didn't meet was index 1. It should have been 35 and we got 30%. But now with the 3 domains.
It's one of the higher, either the highest 70%
Yeah, but I
of,
think that's
domain
gonna
1 or
kick
2.
in- That's not gonna kick in until December.
Okay,
Following.
Oh, I see, I
If
see.
I'm not mistaken.
Okay.
Don't quote me on it.
okay, ma'am, so so it is only department heads, library.
What I need to verify because she said CCTA was also coming, so if CCTA is coming, then the other teachers here need to be there too, you know?
The other, okay, I mean,
I don't know,
all right, miss, okay, I'll be there, at 10 in the morning, ma'am.
that one.
Thank you, Mrs. Velazquez.
You're welcome.
Thank you, ma'am. Again, that goes in line with what I'm going over.
And I think if we had administration help us facilitate that, when the students show up, especially right now that there's no art class or et cetera, they go ahead and they direct them to the class that, you know, this is the one that you're gonna focus on, et cetera, because we have to be in the hallway and in the classroom at the same time. So we need to come up with some type of system where these kids, if they get here and when they get here, they get directed to where they need to go. We have, 2 weeks left for the
Right,
exam?
right. I failed to mention, you guys know that we have 10 days left of instruction. That includes the Friday academies.
Is there gonna be Friday
I
again?
believe so. I think there is.
Because I think the district had said that,
But they're gonna
They
start
shut
closing
down?
every Friday?
yes,
They're gonna shut
and that
down?
there's gonna be no,
Really?
nothing for
Even
Fridays.
Saturdays?
That one I don't know.
Because the other campuses typically do it on Saturdays. We don't, you know.
Are the other campuses having the enrichment camps or whatever?
The enrichment camps for the other campuses are over.
Yeah, I think so.
They're done. So, but they are having summer school, which we don't have, but,
And it's Monday through Thursday?
it's
or-
Monday through Thursday. If I'm not mistaken, last year when we had, Monday to Thursday summer school at the comprehensive high school, I do think Fridays, the district was closed. Yeah, so we might not be able to do that. So if we don't do that, then we have, 8 days left of instruction. So, as you're saying, Ms. Nori, I think administration helping us out and directing these kids to those teachers who, or to those classes where they're nearest passing, I think that would help out.
Because it really hurts their like motivation and their self-view when they see that their scores are getting lower and they start losing confidence and I start seeing them to drop out. So especially for Ariana being like, that's like, we know that she's been going through so many issues, so I think her having a positive, especially in school, would help her out emotionally and to not drop out and to
Yeah.
keep coming.
Right. Again, at risk means that they're at risk of dropping out. And that's 100% of our students. Very few campuses have to face the challenges that we do here as far as that. Ethan, I haven't seen Ethan in forever.
Yes.
Isaiah, I haven't seen Isaiah in forever. I think Mrs. Sanchez had mentioned that if Isaiah comes, Alex will come or something or other, but that's not the way it works. I mean, you have to look at each of these students independently and not.
And it won't be very conducive for having class
Right.
because
If they
it's,
come together, they might disrupt each
it's
other.
very, yes.
Right.
And I feel your first line was very important for them to show the positive, like the graduation picture, to show their positive accomplishments. I've been looking for pictures so that way like they get motivated or they see it like, we don't have class pictures of the graduates. And that's very sad because we're focusing too much on the dropouts and not the actual like small gains that we have. So I'm still researching that and I'm trying to come up with some type of, I don't know, like historical wall or like something to document like the kids are actually, because I think it's really good that they actually had a lot of kids in the masters, but because we're so worried about meaning accountability, like we don't see names of those kids, and we need to also,
Congratulate.
yeah, and I think definitely it came, more aware of this when they forgot to give the certificates out during the graduation.
Right, we had, I mean, they were personalized, we created those certificates, and then administration didn't give them out. I think even the simplest certificates or recognitions or acknowledgements that we give these kids can go a long way.
Oh,
because
definitely.
they've never gotten any type of, acknowledgements or recognition, so administration definitely, I feel, needs to help us a little bit more with that.
And it was very heartbreaking to see that it was such a small group, maybe like 10 kids, and only 4 of those got, recognition, and the other ones had to sit there, and their parents were there.
Right.
And this is like the last time that they're gonna see their kid get some type of award for their accomplishment. And you kind of noticed it in the parents' face that they were upset. They're like, well, what about my son, or what about my daughter? But
Like, say something nice about what.
yeah,
they
so
did.
then I went ahead and once, before they left, I was like, you know what, ma'am, congratulations, it's very good that and I did like a personal type of thing. 'Cause
Right.
I just think that if we also focus on that, we'd have a little bit better attendance.
Yeah, I mean, even the smallest, I think parental engagement is also lacking. And I think, we're here to devise solutions, right? So, and even for next year, not just about these retesters, but I don't see parental engagement being that important to our administration, unfortunately. I think when parents are contacted by admin, it's for negative reasons. And, it's like Gavison's grandmother. I speak to her every time I see her. And you just see a big difference in the way the parent acts, in the way the student acts. And it can't be all negative information that we give, the parents. And I just feel the interpersonal skills are lacking. You have to make parents feel comfortable when they come in, and you have to just celebrate any minimal achievement that these kids do. So
Because I think they did pretty good on the first festival that we had. It was very much like, okay, you all come in at your own time, relax, enjoy, let's go ahead and mingle. And then the second one, they were kind of like, okay, look at this presentation, or
Right.
look at that presentation. And it really took away from them just, bonding and relaxing and creating a welcoming environment.
I agree, that's exactly what it is, creating a welcoming environment. And that also goes back to even office staff. It's I had to mention the other day to one of our office people, I said, it's okay for you to smile every now and then. It's okay for you to, just be nice, and so we've got some challenges, but all of this that I'm learning as an administrator, I have to be conscious of all these things that sometimes seemingly seem unimportant, I guess, but really are highly important.
And I think once they go ahead and start acknowledging that those things are important, maybe like during a macro observation or other things, like they'll take it more into it has to be throughout the campus, not just with this teacher at this time, because I've seen it a lot of times where parents go into the office and nobody's there to greet them, nobody's there, and then I have to come in and step in and be like, I don't have the answer, but I smiled, I greeted, let me go find you someone who can help you out.
Absolutely, I do the same thing. Parents are sitting there, they just tell them to wait, and they don't say, what is it that we can help you with, and we'll be right with you, and also, they're there half an hour, at least every 5-10 minutes, let them know, we're gonna get to you, or we apologize, or, and that translates over to our students as well,
Yeah, we have parents like, well, why am I gonna go get disrespected? They're probably disrespecting my kid, so the parent's not pushing the child to come, because they don't have that connection or that, because some of these parents might have like negative ideas of what school is or how
Right.
principals get treated. So then I've had students come up and tell me like, oh, my mom told off the principal because she
Right.
was harassing me.
Right.
And
Well, often our students' parents, as you all know, were also at-risk students.
definitely.
You know, so it's that cycle that we have to break with this current generation of students that we have.
So I think if we just go ahead, I mean, we document like their accomplishments and then focus on parental engagement. I think, I don't know if it's like customer service, I hate calling it that, but
You know, we kind of,
yeah, you have to,
they're the people that you're servicing.
Yeah, I mean, the term would be parental engagement, but yeah, we serve these students, you know.
like specifically on that factor is that we need to know how to address, or, you know, we
Yeah.
need to have it just flat out, lay out the rules, like, you know, we're here, whether we have our issues or not,
Right,
for them
Right.
and for parents.
and I think humility plays a part in that, where, you know, if you're walking around with a mad look on your face
Mhm.
and you don't know how to greet people, including teachers and parents, it's just the school culture. And unfortunately, I do see an issue here with the school culture. I think most of us, most teachers, go out of their way to try to establish a positive school culture, but it's very difficult when we don't have that support from administration. But you know, as far as my educational leadership and principal certification, I take all of these things into account and hopefully correct some of these mistakes that I see that happen here. The Algebra 1 star interventions, Mrs. Velasquez just came in a little while ago. She's the department head for mathematics. And these were the interventions that she and I discussed. One of the things that they do is team teaching, just like the social studies department does, which I think is highly conducive to student learning, simply because they get not necessarily a different perspective, but a different way of instruction, not a different type of instruction, but a different method of instruction, I guess you could say. And what they might not understand from me, they'll understand from another viewpoint, the other teacher, right? So they're doing team teaching. Teachers will collaborate to target student strengths based on the May administration results. They're also gonna do period pullouts. You were mentioning this a little while ago, Ms. Tenorio, that right now we don't really have elective courses. For example, the art class has been dissolved because the art teacher is out. So during those periods, we can pull those kids in. What are the other electives that we have? Maybe speech, and again,
Justice.
right, the criminal justice, PE. And I think what this requires is collaboration amongst teachers, to where, you know, we have to communicate with those elective teachers and let them know that we'll be pulling out those students, but that those students will also be responsible for making up any of the work. And just that it is a priority. Not that the elective courses are not priority, but you know, these kids are trying to graduate. They've fallen behind on credits, which is the major reason they're here, and we have to address the needs. So the period pullouts, teachers will pull out target students whose schedule shows an elective or class period in which they have passed their EOCs. The colored calculators and the TI Inspire. Students will use the colored calculators on a daily basis. These colored calculators are especially useful when they move into the second, third, and fourth algebra categories, because students are better able to see the transformation between two linear and quadratic functions. The TI Inspire calculators will be used for solving systems of equations. And one thing I didn't mention, but obviously that you all know, we have these two social workers that work exclusively with our campus, and they also help us contact parents and make home visits. So one of the things that departments are doing is constantly communicating with the liaisons or the social workers and letting know who our target students are and how they can assist us with bringing those students in. And finally, the parent contact and home visits. The parental contact will be done on a daily basis, which we've all been doing. Some of the activities that, as far as instructional activities, that the Algebra 1 teachers are using, students will complete the matching activities for each of the clusters. Students will match vocabulary words with definition for each of the categories. Students will be administered weekly mini assessments and daily entry and exit tickets. And the entry and exit tickets also work as formative assessments, so we can know what our students are lacking in. And also, as I mentioned, the use of the calculators on the entry tickets and the exit tickets and formative assessments. Go ahead, ma'am.
I just really feel, I mean, it's good that, you know, they're working collaboratively, but if they become too dependent on that calculator, it's really gonna show when they take the TSI. Because in the TSI, you don't have the access to the calculator. It only projects or populates on the screen on certain questions. So what I've seen is that, yes, STAR is very important, yes, they have very good scores, but that growing dependency on that calculator really impedes their abilities once they get to TSI. And I think it's also that the co-teaching is very good because you have one teacher doing the lesson and then another teacher like in the power zone, but it's just that.
I agree. The TSI, I had done the previous observation on TSI, and you're very familiar with TSI. They can't use a calculator, so the kids struggle with the TSI because all they've been taught is to use a calculator. Now, I'm not sure who you attribute that to. I mean, it's the nature of the exam, I think, the STAR exam. I mean, so.
Oh yeah, definitely. They went ahead and gave them y'all can use the calculator on TSI, and freshman year.
No, on STAR.
On STAR, what do you mean?
You said you can use a calculator on TSI, but you meant STAR.
No, on TSI, on some questions, it actually comes up, but only on certain questions.
Oh, but I don't think it's a graphing calculator, is it?
No, I think it's a basic calculator.
Okay.
I'm not too sure. I just know that a calculator only comes up on certain questions.
Okay.
So, but they might not even reach that level because they have to meet a certain before they, you know, keep taking the test. And that's what I've seen in history is that, you know, they'll do good, and then they keep using it in geometry because that's the next course after algebra.
Right.
And then once they get into their senior year and they're challenging the TSI, it's very sad to see that they have to go to remedial math because they weren't trained to just use, like, you know.
Well, and the TSI, I did that presentation on that. It's really not. They're easy mathematical computations that the kids have to make, but it might be like, even some of them that I was looking at were basic subtraction, and it's just.
And if they don't
four
work
numbers
on
is like four numbers, so that's all it is. It's just a large number, and
Exactly.
and the kids struggle with that. So.
And we see it in history when we're saying, like, it's year 2000, you know, like, how many years, and it's so hard for them to, like, think about 2 presidential terms, it's 4 years. So I do, like, my multiplication and the addition, and they're yelling out numbers like 2010.
Right.
So we definitely see that in history. And the other thing I wanted to kind of talk about in that slide was the phone calls. I know that she says that it's a big difference when it comes from the teacher and the teacher, but we've had students that kind of, or parents that also lash out because we don't have communication. Like, they already called first period, they're bringing them in second or third period. So I'm over here calling second period when they're on route, and they're like, look, we already talked to somebody, why do you keep calling us?
Right.
So we had developed a system where it's like, you're gonna focus on these kids, but you're gonna call on behalf of all the departments, and this is a message that you're gonna do.
Right. Well, again, for the, one of the things that I had done, or we had done, was that target list that we pulled out, I sent an email to the other departments as far as we're gonna focus on these kids, so you focus on other kids. So that way the calls don't overlap, the home visits don't overlap. But again, this
should be coming from administration.
Yes,
you know?
because you went out of your way, I don't think they've returned that email, with their needs.
I didn't get any response, no.
So
Yeah,
we need to go ahead, like, the way they would facilitate it before is we would sit down,
right,
we go ahead and say like, look, even though we're not focusing on my exam, I have a better repertoire or better,
With the student.
communication with this student.
Right.
I will more than gladly share your message with them.
right.
And then we can go ahead and give them the targeted instruction they need in order to pass the exam that they're so close to
Right,
passing.
let me give you an example. Omar Moreno never comes to our classes,
Correct, definitely.
but he does go to ELA whenever he's here and he wants to stay there all day. And maybe they could help motivate him to, or maybe even they can help us tutor him
Yes.
as far as history, because he's not very, I think maybe, Mr. Norio, maybe your character, my character, maybe they're too strong for him to where he, just feels overwhelmed
No, I
maybe.
totally agree, he's
I'm
very
not sure.
capable, but it's just
Absolutely
that,
capable.
when I tried, we'd be able to talk about like spinners or whatever, like fidget, like, his little hobbies.
Right,
And when it
right.
came down to my content, I totally lost him, like he closed down.
Right.
And I just,
Right. So Mr. Juarez says, well, I play video games with him and that's how I got him to pass. Well, we don't all play video games,
Yes.
and I really don't have the time to be playing video games with
to
him.
learn.
And and I did try trying to relate to him and find some common ground, and it's still a struggle with him. But I do know that he's over there with English language arts, so maybe they can help us with him these next few days.
We'll write it down.
I think I'm gonna divide the video into two because I recorded it last time and it was a 45-minute presentation and the video only showed 30, so I'm not sure what was the issue with that. And then maybe do two of them. So this is just elaborating on the interventions that the algebra department came up with. Again, the team teaching. The intervention, the second intervention, the period pullouts, and what they have here that we also use is this template for the students' schedules. It includes the tier, the attendance tier, their scale score or the raw score, and where they're at on the different periods, so that way we know where to pull them out from.
With that, I think it's another thing that maybe administration could help us out more, because when the ELA department did it last semester, we had a lot of trouble even getting the students in. We spent most of the time going to fetch them from somewhere else. Sometimes they weren't even here anymore, so if we could get some kind of like update on their attendance, like, okay, we know this is your target kid, but he left during third period, so don't bother coming to get him.
Right,
Because once we finally got them all in the room, we had like 10 minutes left.
Right.
So we had a lot of trouble with them.
And that's because it's a small campus,
Yes.
and we still struggle with the time.